Hey everybody, my name is Ricky Allen. I am the leader head of Customer X Factor, and I have another phenomenal guest here. And just to back up, the point of this podcast is to be able to shine light on some of the most brilliant, amazing people who are working in the customer experience industry. And even sometimes in some cases, they branch out and they work in other industries. But today, I have Paul Catherall, who is a good friend of mine, who is an outstanding individual who's worked in the telecommunications space for quite some time. Not only that, he's one of the leaders of the Back Nine Golfer, which is a phenomenal channel. Who that gives kind of some background on his story as well. I believe that Paul is probably one of the most authentic, genuine individuals that I've met in a very long time. I feel like he is a person of honor. He is an individual of truth. And I lean on him to be able to, at sometimes, just be a listening and a soundboard, right? So I am excited to be able to present Paul Catherall. Guy, thank you so much for joining, man. I appreciate it.
Ricky, I'm in a state of shock, mate. Firstly, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the honor of coming on this podcast. I'm very, very excited about it. I love the title, by the way, Customer X Factor. I think sums
Absolutely.
it up to a T. I'm in shock because I wasn't expecting those titles. Whoever put those titles together deserves a raise. And then your description of me, mate, is very, very humbling. And I think what I really take away from that is there's a lot of similarities that you pointed out that I see in yourself. So thank you very much. But I think the major one is the authenticity. You are one of the few guys that I've spoken to that certainly is very, very authentic, whether it's in a business setting or a personal setting. You've always come across as somebody who speaks from the heart and who doesn't kind of believe in fluff. And I, for one, appreciate that, mate. So thank you very much.
Wow. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that as well. Listen, it has been a journey. I think we've been connected probably now, I don't know, it feels like for over 10 years, but since the first time we had a conversation and being able to share stories about the kids and things of that nature, man, it's been a journey. So what I want to do is kind of go back. You you started within this industry, I think, to similar to kind of how most of us did, right? Being able to start in customer experience. But I don't know how many people I've talked to had a dream as a kid, went to school, and they said, you know what, I really want to work in customer experience. It's something that I really want to do. I want to be a leader in that space, and here we go. All right. Give me the origin. Give me what drew you to
Yeah.
customer experience. And if it wasn't something that drew you, what kept you in customer experience?
Yeah, I think what kept me is probably a better way of phrasing it. So
Yeah.
I grew up in a very small town. I grew up in a very small town in North Wales called Llandudno, which is just one of the most picturesque places you can ever hope to come across, right? And I think I was one of the few people that, as I was growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? I think my default when it comes to passion has always led in sport, whether that's football or rugby. And I was fortunate to play at a pretty decent level with both those sports, both those activities. Until, as my dad always said, there'll be a time in your life when you find beer, women, and smoking. Right. Well, I found two of those. I found two of those things. And not the third, but not two out of the three. It doesn't take a genius to work out which one I didn't find.
Very true.
But and then I think as I was going through kind of college, I did the standard business and finance because I thought it was what everybody else was doing.
That's right.
And then an opportunity to leave North Wales and go to college, right, or a higher technical college. I had a chance of going to Manchester or Liverpool or Chester, one of those two, but that was quite close to home. So I chose to go to Cheltenham, which was like a 4 or 5 hour train ride away. And I think that was the first time that I started to branch out and started to feel that as much as I love Llandudno, there's there's a bigger world out there, and I do, even to this day, I miss London. So to cut a long story short, I'm trying to cut a long story short, but I'm not getting there.
No, it's fine.
I went through a couple of random jobs. I worked for a local newspaper. I worked for local butchers, and then I was living in Wrexham at the time, and I found myself out of work, and I went to work for my first ever contact center, which at the time was called LBM, but since they've been bought out from there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I first kind of cut my teeth in the contact center world. I started on sales, utility sales, and I think one of the aspects of sales that I really enjoy is the buzz, right? That buzz of when you get a sale and all that type of stuff. So I stayed with LBM for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. And I was fortunate enough to have some really strong leaders around me. People that spring to mind are Phil Foster and Jamie Elise, and those type of people. They know who they are. Dave O'Brien really had a big influence on my life. And I went from a frontline agent all the way up to a contact center manager. I went through each separate step. I also did some training and some QA while I was going on that journey. But then as you take the step up the ladder, you realize that kind of pigeonholing yourself in one aspect of the BPO world isn't going to necessarily grow your career, right? So while it was predominantly sales, there was also some customer service that was involved in that as well. And that's when I really kind of got the bug of, I see, if you treat your customers right, and I think that's the overall message when it comes to customer care, customer journey. There's that many words now that basically mean the same thing. It's just ridiculous. But from a customer experience standpoint, my major learning was, if you make your customers happy, right, if you treat them with a degree of dignity, they tend to stay with you, right? Very true. I forget who it was, but there was a report that came out maybe 8 to 10 years ago that said the difference between doing a good job and a great job is minimal. It's absolutely minimal, right? So if you could do a great job, that's just going to benefit everybody around that's involved in the company, right? So after LBM, I joined Virgin Media UK, and I was responsible again for a sales account. We launched in the Philippines probably around, I'll check my wrist because it was the same year that Darcy was born, 2007. So we launched here in 2007. I spent a number of years traveling from the UK to the Philippines. And of course, the more time you spend somewhere, the more changes that happens to your life. And, one place that used to be home isn't home. And, so I found myself in the Philippines start of 2012 or mid 2012. And again, as like a contact center manager, working for a UK account based here.
Yep.
Now that was when I really started to understand customer service, customer experience. That was really about the metrics that from a sales standpoint, you don't really quote unquote care about, right? You don't care how well you treat somebody normally from a sales standpoint, but when it comes to customer care, the clues in the title, your job is to take care of those customers, right? And there's always an analogy that I like. If you can think of a trapeze, and then underneath you've got the safety net. That's what customer care is, right? Customer care is your safety net for your customers. And there's always going to be something wrong, but what you have to do is make sure you catch them safely. So I was with a company here for about 6 to 8 months, and then my current opportunity came up, and the reason it appealed to me was this was solely customer care. So I've gone from managing maybe 100 FTE, something like that, which was care focused, to close to, at the start, 200 that it now sits at just sort of 1,000 FTE, right?
Wow.
And again, it just really boils down to making sure your customers are looked after. And I think that's, for me, is the difference between a sales role versus a care role. That from a sales standpoint, sometimes you can get burnt out because that buzz becomes just BAU. From a care standpoint, it's slightly different because you're going to be faced with different challenges, different types of calls coming in, different types of chats coming in. So looking after the customer just becomes, kind of your main obsession, right? I don't know if that answers your question, Ricky, but
No,
that's
it
me, mate.
does. It does. It also creates more questions in my mind. You mentioned from you mentioned going from 100 to 200, 1,000
Yeah,
FTE. And I'm always curious from, I've never been on the customer side. For me personally, I've always been in sales my entire life, right?
yeah,
But I did, outside of the beginning of my career, I did start off in the call center, and I worked for Wells Fargo, which was cool, right? But even then, I went from just a standard customer service agent to a sales rep. So,
okay,
and that was very, from standard customer service to a sales rep, that was short lived. Like
yeah.
I went to the sales side very quickly. But I'm curious from the customer side in which you're on, what are the challenges going from eh, being able to operate at such a scale, right? You're going from 100 to 200 to 500 to
Yeah.
1,000. All right. I would imagine that at each one of those stages, the complexity, maybe it increases or maybe it doesn't. Or in our world, typically it's as hard to manage 50 FTE as it is 150 FTE, right? It's still as difficult. So can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges going from each one of those buckets of scale?
Yeah. For me, the answer is what you were saying, second part of your question there, that it's not so much the scale, it's making sure that you've got the right leaders in place, right?
Mm,
And also making sure that you've got the right processes in place. Because ultimately, whether it's a 50 FTE or whether it's 1,000 FTE, those agents are doing more or less the same thing, right, from a care standpoint. So therefore,
right.
if those agents are doing the same thing, and I don't like using the phrase same thing because I've never wanted to turn agents into robots because then you lose the individuality, right? And the
I
same
agree.
from a leadership standpoint.
I
When
agree.
I say the same thing, I'm talking about processes as mandatory stuff that the agent needs to go through, right? And when you're talking about solving a customer's issue, well, that's the process they need to go through. How they get from A to B or A to Z, as long as they're not breaking any laws or doing anything they shouldn't do,
Right.
then that
Right.
stays the same. And then I think you can roll that up, right? You could then say, so this is what we expect from our agents. What do we expect from our team leaders? What do we expect from our assistant team leaders? What do we then expect from our I'm trying to remember the kind of the structure now. So what do we expect then from our operations manager or
Yep.
operations director, right? So each one of those stages, each one of those roles and responsibilities should be clearly laid out. So again, it doesn't really matter if you're managing 50, 100, up to 1,000, even beyond 1,000, right? As long as you've got those processes clearly mapped out and everybody knows what they're doing from agent
Yep.
all the way up, then I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. But if you can imagine, if you're a pilot, if there's something goes wrong with the plane, you've got a black book that you can refer to, right? From a leadership standpoint, if there's something going wrong with your account, then you've got a black book you can refer to. And if you don't have the answer, then somebody around you is going to have the answer, be that ops director or whoever it may be. Sometimes, and this is what I find that team leaders sometimes miss out on, is actually the answer isn't above you, the answer's below you, right? The agents know what the challenges are, right? They know what the challenges are. They know what customers are calling in for. They know how the systems work. So sometimes it's okay to go, hey, Ricky, look, I'm struggling here, mate, as your manager. I'm trying to help you out. What's going on? How can I help you? And all of a sudden it becomes a two-way conversation rather than kind of, I'm your manager, you do this because I'm telling you to do that. There's nothing worse from a leadership standpoint.
And it's almost, sorry, it's almost as important to be able to utilize the data from your agents, which I
Yes.
find some organizations kind of have a difficult time of how do we utilize this data to benefit, you're right, the customer experience. Um, and that goes back to,
Yeah.
okay, how are we housing this data? How is the data being manipulated? And then we kind of fall into this conversation of AI and all these other things, right? I do have a question
Go.
as it relates to the contact center.
Yeah.
Um, Do you feel that working with like BPO partners
Yeah.
makes it easier, or does it make it harder?
That's a great question, and that's something that I recently posted on my LinkedIn page, to be fair. So thank you
Yep.
for checking that. I think it all comes down to, for me, the cultural fit, right?
Hmm.
That's the be all and end all. I think if you get too hung up on price, yes, price plays a part,
Of
but
course.
if, for example, if you're fixing a roof at your house, right, and you go with the lowest price, 9 times out of 10, that roof's going to fall off, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's worth paying a little bit more to get a better job.
Absolutely.
Um, I think, Ricky, the answer is both. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's more challenging. And when it becomes more challenging, in my experience, is that, for want of a better phrase, the BPO haven't been informed of the business strategy on why we're making a decision or why decisions are being
That's
made.
good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I always feel that there's no such thing as too much information, whether you're a frontline agent, whether you're a team leader, whoever it may be, right? The more
Completely
information
agree.
you've got, the more then you can adapt that information to what you're looking to achieve. Now, obviously, the information that you give to a director is going to be different to what you give to a frontline agent, but
Very true.
ultimately, as long as the agent knows exactly what's happening and the team leader is bought into it, then that does mitigate the challenges. You're always going to have issues, right? You're always going to have issues. And I think, for me, the better way of managing those issues is not by contract management, right? There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than saying, look, BPO, in the contract, you're meant to be doing this, but you're not doing it. That doesn't go to improving the relationship in terms of kind of how you get the best from a BPO and a client standpoint. For me, always boils down to that relationship, like the vendor manager role. And I think sometimes that vendor manager role doesn't really carry the importance that it should do, right? Because it's a tough role. I know, I've done it,
It
right?
is.
You've got all the accountability, but none of the responsibility.
The
Right?
responsibility. Yeah.
It's really, really tough. So that's why, for me, relationships and how you build those relationships. And it's not about going out for a pint or anything like that. It's about communicating. It's about understanding the challenges the BPO has, and say, okay, so how can we help you achieve what we ought to achieve? And one of my old bosses, I used to say, when it comes to BPO and clients, from a client standpoint, you have to bear in mind that if they've had a good day, then that's down to you. But also the reverse is true. If they've had a bad day, that's down to you, and you can't have Teflon shoulders, right? So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's spot on. And I wish that a lot of times within the marriage
Yeah,
of, a partner and a customer in BPO, that communication is like, at the forefront of how we're going to be successful, right? The
yeah,
more information that you're able to provide to me, the more outcome that I can provide to you, the more,
absolutely.
cost savings and so on and so forth, all of the key words, right? But I think
Yeah.
communication is key. It's if you can explain the relationship between, this is going to be an interesting question, the
Okay.
relationship between a customer and a BPO, but do it in an analogy of a golf swing. How would you do
Wow.
that? Yeah, that
Okay.
was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good. That's good. That's got me thinking. So, I think from a golf swing standpoint, the ball is the vendor, right? The client, sorry, the client, right? The ball
Okay.
is the client, because you need the golf swing in this instance, or the golf stick, or the golf club. So you need the BPO
Hmm.
to have a perfect or a more or less perfect swing, so that when it makes contact with you, with the client, it's going to go in the direction you want to go in. There you go. Have a bit of
Mm.
that. Just made that up off the top of my head, mate.
That was good.
Right?
That was good. Listen, there's so much that you can expand on because you have
Oh yeah.
the caddy. Who's caddy? Well,
Well, yeah. You could talk about the car. You could talk about the
you
different
can talk about
buys.
it all.
You could talk about anything. And I think, for me, and again, you must have been looking at my LinkedIn profile, because I posted this over the weekend.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's just coming.
I do. That's one of my ways that I relax outside of work, is golf, right? And
Yep.
it is the most frustrating sport. It is a ruination of a long walk. It really is. But there's a couple of aspects that I really enjoy from a golf standpoint, and I don't want to get all LinkedIn-esque about it. You know, when you take everyday life and turn it into a business model. But I think from a golf standpoint, the one thing that you can take away from a leader is extreme ownership, right? So if you expound on what you were talking about the caddy, so there's lots of variables in the golf swing, right? Or golf course. There's the conditions, there's the ball line, there's the caddy, there's your playing partners, there's how you're feeling, how's your swing that day, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it comes down to you, and that's one of the things that I love about golf is that if you put the work in off the course, eventually, it's not going to happen overnight. Very much like running a team, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But if you invest in you and you do the right things, whether that's you as a leader and you and the people, or you as a golfer standpoint, you will eventually see the results. So that's kind of I don't even know if it is switching off when I go golfing. I just try to not lose as many balls as possible, to be fair.
I think that in our worlds, you know, there's a lot of talk that you hear kind of in like, you know, the terms of work-life balance and things of that nature. But I think there's a cohesive relationship between what you do, you know, from a 9 to 5 or however you want to label it to your own personal life. I think those things do marry. Because, you know, the old saying, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So if you are a very interactive, personal leader on at work, that tends to, you know, translate to you as a father or as just, you know, anything that you're doing, right? Which when you're going through the analogies, it says it all over it, right? Like Paul's definitely a leader. He can break down a 9-arm to contact center.
Right. Have some of that. Before we go on, can we just go back to a point? I wanted to mention it earlier, but we kind of went a different route. You know, you were talking about data, right, and how we access that data. I sometimes think that from a leadership standpoint, right, how often have you heard from like your peers or your managers, this is what I think's happening, right? And then you look at the data and you go, actually, it's not. But then how difficult is it then to sell that back up to the food chain, right? To say, I understand what you thought was happening, but actually this is what's happening. And then I think that's always a difficult conversation. So again, it comes down to how you dissect that data, right?
I agree. The data is the roadmap, right?
Yeah.
If there's one piece of the business that I would use as my Google Maps, it would be my data, right? That should tell you where a hard stop is, where to go, where to turn, right? All the roadblocks. And then it allows you to plan appropriately for the future and which way that you're actually going in, what you're looking to achieve, right?
Exactly.
So also in your career, at some of the fantastic places that you've been able to be a part of, talk to me a little bit about maybe a project, something that you built or that you've ran that you're especially proud of.
I think, if you don't mind, I'll talk about my current work, the current role that I'm in, because I joined this company. I joined Mint. Well, it wasn't Mint at the time. I joined Ultra like 2012, and it was a scrappy startup with the right people in the right place, right? Or the right seats on the bus. And then over the course of the next, I've been with them 12, 13 years, we've grown from a scrappy startup to, recently bought out by T-Mobile, right? And I think that's really testament, not to me, but to the teams and the people that we've got in place.
Absolutely.
We've got in place, right? Yeah. And I think when I look back on the journey, yes, there's been challenges. Yes, there's been ups, there's been downs. There's been times when we were kind of, what's going to happen here? But all through that journey, what has been the underlying message or the North Star has always been, right, well, how can we look after the customer, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what's happening to us or where we are, kind of, whether we're at 100 FTE or 5 FTE or 1,000 FTE, that's by the by. The customer doesn't need to know that, right? So it's always been, what can we do to make sure the customer gets serviced in the best possible way, while also looking after costs, right? Not doing it on the cheap, but also not spending it like we are David Beckham or Lewis Hamilton, right?
Right.
But you've always got to have a little bit of control over the purse strings. And
I agree.
I think if I break that down even further, one of the many aspects that I really appreciate is the PH team that I've built here. They are some of the best people that I've had the opportunity to work with, and they've really made a difference, not only in how Mint and Ultra perform, but also how I've been able to do my role. And I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it without anybody on that team. So shout out to those guys.
You said the PH team?
Philippines, sorry, PH.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. My friends call me a reverse coconut. I'm white on the outside and brown on the inside. So from a Filipino perspective. So yeah.
I gotcha. And does this term sound familiar to you? Teams should operate like sports teams, not like families.
Yeah. You went back in. You must have gone back years to pull that quote out. Yeah, and I got a bit of flack for that on LinkedIn when I posted it.
Really?
So, yeah.
So let's clear it out. What do you mean?
Yeah, this is. Do you know what? Funny enough, for some reason I was thinking about this today, and I don't know why. So all too often when you join a team, you always hear this team is family, right? But and I don't want to speak for everybody, right? And I think this is part of why people took offense to what I said on LinkedIn. You're always going to have challenges in the family, right? So personally speaking, if my dad told me to do something, hey, I'd do it whether or not I wanted to do it, right? So that's kind of the family aspect. And I know I really support the love and all the support from a family unit. I get that, right? And I love that aspect. But when it comes to team performance, you're responsible for something, right? Whether you're a frontline agent who has 3 widgets to hit on that day, or whether you're a team leader who has 15 widgets to hit for that day, or whether you're an operations director that's got 1,000 widgets for that day, you are responsible for something. So if you're responsible for something, then somebody else is responsible for something, right?
That's right.
And there was a quote that I read in Will Greenwood. He used to play football. He used to play rugby for England. And I'm Welsh, so this hurts me to say, but England won the Rugby World Cup. I think it was in 1997 or something like that. And Will wrote a book, and I love Will. I think he's a great guy. But one of his quotes was, he was asked, "Why do you think you won the World Cup?" And he went, "Because I could solely focus on my job. I knew what the person was going to do. I knew what he was going to do." Right, I'm pointing to the person next to me. Because he was focusing on his. I knew what the person to my left was going to do because they were just solely focused on their job. So therefore, all I had to worry about was what I'm going to do. And I love that analogy because I think you can replicate that across all teams, whether that's from a BPO standpoint, whatever it is, but particularly in the BPO world, right? You're responsible for your target. You've seen it, right? You've seen sales teams that are struggling to hit target because I do it, right? I used to do it. You look at the big target on the wall, right? That's not my responsibility as an agent. If I'm hitting my target, I'm fine. That there is the team manager's responsibility. So, yeah, but I did get some flack for that, but I stand by it. I stand by it because, a dysfunctional family is not a great place to play. But a performing team, one of the best places you can be.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say that I guess a caveat to that.
Go on.
If you are functioning as you should be, there are elements of family that I think would be necessary, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. In instances of how do we get over our differences, right? So for me, I've never been a political individual, right? I am an individual that if we have a disagreement, how about you and I talk about it? Let's not go around go around the hoops, right? Even
Yeah.
in sports, playing football, it's one of those things. It's like, hey, you're missing the tackle every single time. I don't know if it's personal, right? I don't know what it is, but I need you to fix it, right? And
Yeah.
it's having that hard conversation, but being transparent and open, right? And what that tends to do is provide trust. It gives an environment of authenticity, right? And then that's where we start talking about culture,
Yes.
because I hear so many people use the word culture, but not necessarily defining it in an appropriate way, right?
Yes.
How do
You're
we
right.
create this culture? Well, we create it by having an authentic environment. We create it to where we don't feel like we're diving in a political landscape to where I have to tiptoe around how everyone feels, right?
You're so right. You're
And
so
if we
right.
can if we can do that, which is operating, not, maybe not so much like a family, because there's been times we might be mad at each other as a family and we just may
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
talk.
No,
Right.
and that, yeah, and that point there is crucial to successful teams, right? Because successful teams can have a disagreement, then agree on a strategy moving forward, right? And it's
Yes.
okay. I keep telling the teams that I've worked with or I'm working at the moment that, hey, it's okay to have a disagreement,
Yes.
because if you don't have a disagreement and if you just say yes to everything, then as a person you don't feel heard, right? You don't feel like you have any skin in the game, right? So the
Completely agree.
success of the team doesn't really mean anything to you if you haven't had, if you feel your ideas aren't being aired or shit. So
I
I
agree.
really encourage that. I really, I really say, look, guys, tell me how you feel. If you're not happy with it, explain to me why you're not happy with it, and then we can have a discussion about it. What I don't want to happen is for you to go, yeah, I'm happy with it, boss, and then have a discussion outside the room. Hey, we can discuss about it, but if I don't agree with what you're saying, then I'm still going to go this way. But I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, and another piece of that is these unsettled differences become the seed in which an employee, that the seed of which drives an employee out of the door, right? It's I have an issue with you, but I know I can't come to you about the issue because I know that you're not going to address it appropriately, or you're going to misuse my goodness, you're going to misuse my trust, that
wow,
we have an environment that we can talk and share amongst one another without weaponizing the conversation.
yeah,
And then that's
dude,
gonna, so I have to feel that, you know what, Paul, I have issue with you. You said
yeah,
something to me last week, or you said something to Sally, and I really took offense to it. Can we talk about it? Right?
exactly,
And then that answer should be absolutely. Let's talk about it.
yeah,
Let's figure it out. So, and that is culture, right? That is leadership, and it could be from the bottom up or from top down, right? I think that environment has to stretch beyond um, profiles. It has to stretch beyond titles, right? It's just, how do we operate with one another as a human?
yeah.
Period.
You're
Right.
absolutely right, mate. Yeah, on a to a T. Excuse the golfing pun, but yeah, to a T.
You've mentioned in the past about keeping the smallest promises, and I think this kind of bleeds from the conversation that we're kind of having, right?
Yeah,
Um, in an organization, even if you can relate it to customer experience, when it comes to promises, right? What's Explain more about that statement that you've made.
yeah, and I think it covers everything from a frontline agent all the way up to an operations director, and I don't know if I would. Oh, there's another point I want to make about teams. We'll come
Yeah.
back to that. I just remembered something. But I don't know if I'd call it promises. I'd more call it obligations, right?
Mm.
I'd more call it like, if you said you're going to do something from a leader standpoint, then hey, you have to. I was going to swear, but I won't. You have to do it, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to
you
get.
do.
You have to
You
get
do.
off. You have to get off your ass on the chair and actually go and do something about it. And it's the same from a customer standpoint, right? How many times have you heard from a customer, whether that's via chat or they've called back in and says, "Look, Paul said he was going to call me back in 24, 48 hours, and he hasn't called me back now." as from an agent standpoint, you're going to handle maybe 200-300 calls a day, right?
Yes.
And that one customer, that might not mean much to you, but that customer hasn't got their working phone or a working appliance, and they need your help. Well, you should treat them in that way.
Yeah.
Right. That's that. And whether, as I said, whether you're an operations director or a team leader, or regardless of your role, if you said you're going to do something, then do it. Because if you do it, then you've then created that bind, that obligation to somebody else. That if they can see you do it, then hell, you've got to go and do it, right? And it's the same from a parenting standpoint, right? I often hear that, you know, kids don't learn by what you say; they learn by what you do. And I think that statement there is very true. But going back to the team, I know I remembered it, then I forgot it because we went down a tangent.
No. And I agree. And I feel like your promises start the moment that I interact with your organization.
Absolutely.
As a customer, right? When I click on this green shirt online, and you're making a promise that this is the color of the shirt. When I go to submit my order and it says 3 to 5 business days, you're making a promise to me that I'm going to be getting my order in 3 to 5 business days. And unfortunately, Amazon has spoiled us all, right? So we're expecting everything to be on time.
Within 24 hours sometimes.
In 24 hours. If I have a phone bill and I was overcharged and you promised me that it would be credited back, right? I'm relying on that promise from you to be able to do that. And I think sometimes we take those promises for granted, right? It's
No, you're right, mate. You're right.
It's one of those things.
I got a question for you quickly before I talk about my team stuff. You know, you said that the shirt's meant to be delivered between 3 to 5 days, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think companies should put 3? So they're not just leave it at 5 business days? Because if I'm a customer, right, and I've ordered the green shirt, and it's not there, because all I've said is 3 to 5 days. Well, I'm going to get annoyed if it's not there within 3 days. I know there's the 5-day window, right? Do you have a thought on that, or do you think it's just practice? People say 3 to 5 days.
So I have so many thoughts on that. I have so many thoughts on that. So in from my younger days, it was, you know, you always try to under promise and over deliver.
Yeah,
right?
gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So it's you know, from the early sales days. So I feel like the 3. So here's the thing. This is what I believe. Okay. And I could be completely wrong. So in the comments, who you guys see this video, correct me. I feel there's 2 things happening. There's a level of accountability that I'm putting out there, and I'm stretching that accountability to say, well, if I can get it to you in 3, then great. If I get it to you in 5, then great, because that's what I said. Now, I remove the 3 and I just do 5.
Yeah.
And then there's a product that's the exact same from another company, and they have 3 to 5.
I see what you mean.
See what I mean? So now, as a customer, I'm looking at the small things, right? Like, well, this one said, so I might be able to get this one faster. You know?
Yeah. So I not thought about that. That's a fair shout, mate. To be fair.
I'll take
that back.
Yeah, and I have so many more thoughts, but I think those 2 things are under promise, over deliver, and then how do I compete with my competitors who are doing the same thing? And it's those small nuances that kind of get me that sell.
Yeah, that's a good show. Just a quick one. You know, we were talking about teams earlier. This is going back to when I still lived and worked in the UK. We were having a team build with the leaders and the contact center managers, and I think at the time I was senior sales manager or something. I certainly wasn't a contact center manager. And we spoke about, we were doing this kind of, how do we get the agents to buy in to kind of what we want to do as a collective, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to challenge that, and this is exactly what I did on the day, because and not about how you do it, but about the wording. right?
Mm.
Because if I buy into something, there's a chance that you're going to hoodwink me because I'm leading you blindly, right? I'm leading you. That's my interpretation of buy-in,
Okay.
right? That I'm gonna go with you blindly.
Got it.
My argument was, can we not change that to belief, right? Can you not believe in what we're trying to do here? Because that, for me, that's a stronger message, and also it indicates that you, as a leader, are willing to take on board other people's ideas.
Okay.
So that was just what I wanted to talk about from a team standpoint. And I do have a bee in my bonnet over buy-in versus belief, and I think I'll always have it. And I just prefer the use of belief. There you go.
Buy-in versus belief. I think I feel like that's a book. And I'm thinking through it. I'm thinking through it. I feel like, well, how do you create belief would be the next question.
Yeah. So that's a tough one to really answer, because I think when it comes to belief, the way that people start to believe in you, right? And this is a Ted Lasso thing, right? With the yellow believe above the door, is that going back to what you were saying, if you're authentic, if you do what you said you were going to do, if you share your vision, right? If your behaviors match the culture, right? How often have you walked into a contact center, right? And you've seen, we're people first, you know, we deliver on trust, we put trust first, and all that type of stuff. And then you see a manager berating the agent, and you go, well, hang on, that doesn't align, right?
Yes.
So I think it's from a belief standpoint, if you can adhere to what you said you were going to do, meet your obligations, but more importantly, have a right cultural fit and treat people the right way, right? I think sometimes we lose that. If you treat people the right way, you'll be surprised the results that you get. And yeah there you go, man.
I completely agree with you, and I think the maybe the term belief is underutilized, to your point, and to some people, buying in and belief would be one and the same. But I
it's
think
just my understanding of buying.
Yeah.
Because I've been hoodwinked when I've bought into something, right? But there you go. Sorry, mate.
No, I get it. I get it. Because maybe buying in means that you've been convinced of something.
Yeah,
And
that's a
belief
good way of doing it.
Yeah, and belief is more so on the lines of you.
You believe
I
in it,
think
right?
it's a line of trust and understanding.
Yeah,
Right? Because when I meet
like
someone, I believe that you're a leader. I believe that you're a great person. Or I think that, right? And then you show me that you are, and then I trust that you are, and then
exactly.
there thrives my belief. Like, no, I've worked with Paul. I know Paul. I believe he's a great person. I really do. So, yeah, I agree. I think that's a really, really good point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Finally been able to air it to a wider audience than just my own mind. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've talked about authenticity, and being authentic to customers' needs. And how do you encourage authenticity when most of the agents that are doing the work they're provided with scripts, right? They're provided with metrics. So it's from an agent perspective. How do you provide authenticity?
I try where possible to stay away from scripts, right? I think you can give agents pointers, but you know, imagine if you're a customer and you ring Paul and you get exactly the same script as you would if you called Ricky, right? Well, I've lost myself in that. I'm not me. So as a default, if I'm not me, then I can't really service the customer to my best skills, because I'm feeling constrained by the script, right?
Sure.
KPIs are different, right? KPIs measure your performance, right? And as a frontline agent, you know what you need to achieve. How you get there from A to B or A to Z or 75% CSAT or whatever it might be, for want of a better phrase, that's neither here nor there, right? But what's most important is that you are yourself on the call. Because, you know, if I go back to my sales days, when I really hit my stride in sales was A, after I built up confidence, but B, because I built up confidence, I felt I could be myself.
Sure.
Right? I could be myself on the call rather than feel, you know, if you go back in the day, you'd get a script out, right? And the script from a sales standpoint would be, hello, Mr. Jones. It would be literally word for word, right? And it's just, for me, it's just boring. And I remember I was delivering a training session many years ago, and one of the agents said, well, it's just 300 calls that are the same. I went, no, it's not. It's not 300 calls that are the same. It's each call is individual, right? Each call is different. You're speaking to a different person, but if you don't have that ability, or you don't have that freedom to be yourself, then you're never going to feel the freedom, right? Again, you can take it back to sport, right? You can take it back to, you and I have a different understanding of football. Let's just talk about real football, not your football. But you know, when you look at like a creative player, when they're released off the leash, for example, like Ronaldo or Messi, or you know, I'm going to go back into my day, like Dalglish, somebody like that. The moment they're released off the leash, you see A, how happy they are, B, how much they're enjoying the game, but see how much they're being themselves.
Wow.
And I think from a agent standpoint, and from a leader standpoint, from most standpoints actually, if you feel constrained in what you're doing, you're never going to be yourself, right? And if you're not yourself, you're never going to achieve the potential that you could achieve.
Sure. And I think you also miss the joy. Like, I don't think you're able to really tap into the joy of doing what you do every day. Even if what you do every day is difficult, right? Allowing true authenticity in the workplace, I think, is a plug into culture. But I do know that it can be difficult in a contact center environment, depending on the customer, because there are some companies who they ultimately want to deflect those conversations, right? We want to keep these conversations as short as possible, get them on the phone, get them off the phone, kind of thing, right? But then it is beautiful. It is amazing. And I've worked with some amazing companies who actually say, you know what, we want to take time with our customer. We understand the dollar and the value of the lifetime of a customer. So we really want to pour into that. And if it means that we have to have a 5-minute call, then it means we have to have a 5-minute call. Does it mean that every call needs to be 5 minutes? No. Right? But on a standard, if there's a customer who we understand, maybe they're, you know, a higher spending customer, or they're a brand new customer, or whatever it is, right? We want to be able to make sure we're providing a value of a lifetime to that customer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just wanted to jump on the back of your AHT comment there, because I completely agree. But I think another way to look at it is, it's okay to have, like, I think obviously you need to do some research and say, so what is your ideal AHT, right? From a CSAT, from a quality standpoint, right? That means that from a data standpoint, that means when the call's ended, the customer is happy that the resolution has been, or their problem has been resolved, right? Not so much. I know you spoke about from a dollar viewpoint there, but actually, if you look at it, if that call should be 8 minutes, but from an agent standpoint, you're being forced to do it in 5 minutes, then what are the chances of that customer calling back or raising a complaint, right?
Very high.
So therefore, your call volume is going to go up, which has a bigger impact on the dollar at the end of the day, right? So that's my stance and take on it.
No, that's good. That's really good. And again, I think it could be difficult, but I love when our partners or customers really take advantage of being true to their customer base and allowing the authentic conversations to be able to happen.
Yeah, agreed.
How do you now that we're on that subject real quick, how do you define lifetime value of a customer? What does that mean to you?
That's a good question, because honestly, I don't really know what the answer is. I'll be truthful with you. I think when you start, I think when you ask most people that question, they start to look at, well, how much does the customer spend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's always a fair or a real measure, because if they're locked into a contract, then they've got no choice, right? They have to spend that money.
Yeah.
I think a better measure would be if out of the blue you contacted that customer, right? You did like a fizz back, or you said, right, so just out of interest, you've been with us for the last 10 years. You know, what do you think? I think that's a better measure. I know it comes down to cost. I know that's how businesses operate. I'm not foolish, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stupid. I understand that aspect, but I think if you're looking to really put the customer at the heart of everything you do, then that you also have to understand how the customer feels about, you know, the company. And I always remember one of my old bosses used to say, ultimately, all customers want is S that works. That's all they want. They just want stuff that works, right? But he didn't use the stuff word. He used a different S word. But I'm not going
Absolutely. So on a personal note,
yeah,
you have written a book. I'm not sure if you're writing a new one or not, but I'm interested in learning. Right?
Yeah.
What did you learn in that process of creating that book?
Yeah, so I've actually written two. I've written one that's called Tank Mornings, and then I wrote another one, Don't Be an Effing Donut. Those are the two that I've wrote. I think what I've learned is that writing a book is tough, right? Writing a book is tough, but I know that particularly when I wrote the Tank Mornings book, I really enjoyed the creative process. I enjoyed kind of letting your brain run to a certain extent free, although I'd never let my brain run 100% free. That's just dangerous territory. I also enjoyed the discipline of it. So I'm one of those people that has, I wouldn't say a strict discipline in the morning, but I certainly like to do certain things that get me set for the day. Right. So when it came to writing the book, I did enjoy having to commit to a certain time that I was going to start writing. And it would take me a bit to get into that. They call it the flow state, right? But I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the creativity. Hey, the books didn't perform well at all, but that's okay. At least I've tried it, right? I've tried it and written 2 books, and I'll take that. I'll take that to my grave.
I love that. I told myself at some point I would love to write a book. About what? I don't know, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think, Ricky, my advice would be you pick a subject that either you know a lot on or something that you're passionate about, and normally that's one in the same.
Yeah, normally that's one in the same.
Right. So and if you're looking to do it, then just start. Right. Just start. What's the phrase? You don't have to be perfect to start, but you have to start to be perfect. Right. So,
should have started with that quote.
I didn't know. I'm full of it. I'm full of useless.
There you go. You see how I did what I did?
I love it.
So real quick, I do want to spend a few seconds on, and I believe I believe it's important to maybe call out some of the people in your life who have been instrumental in kind of your success or your being, right?
Wow.
And if you could do a little both of like, personal, and then call out some people maybe in our industry who maybe they didn't even know that they were, giving you a boost, but who are some of those people that kind of held the ladder for you?
Wow, that's a good question. One of my closest friends, and unfortunately we don't see each other as much as I'd like to, is a guy by the name of Steve Vorley. He's based in the UK, and he is somebody that I look up to on a daily basis, because he's an exceptional human being. He's an exceptional father. He's an exceptional person. He's always has the ability to find the good in, regardless of the situation. I was going through some stuff when I was last in the UK, and he was the one person that I could rely on to kind of help me through it. And I met Steve through work. I stayed with him and his wife for a bit as well, and he's just him and his wife Heather and the whole Forley family are just super, super amazing people. I couldn't wish for closer friends. Obviously, my wife, who's just exceptional and puts up with me on a daily basis. So fair play to her. My daughter, who lands tomorrow, so she's coming to visit in the Philippines for a couple of months.
Nice.
She is so mature for her age. She's just a wonderful person, and she has this rare ability to light up a room the moment she walks into it. And she also has this ability where she can talk to anybody, whether it's a 2-year-old kid, a 3-year-old kid, or her grandparents, and she has the ability to speak and connect with those people.
She has no strangers.
She has no strangers. No, she has no strangers. There's a couple of guys as well who it would be remiss of me not to mention. And they kind of cross over from a personal and also a business standpoint. Barry Bradley, who is just a wonderful human being, just a great guy and a great personal friend. He's I miss him dearly because he's moved back to the UK and he's been there for a number of years now, but he's a great guy. Epi Titong, who I think you were talking about people that have held up a ladder. Epi has held up a ladder, not just for me professionally, but also personally. And he's been one of the few people that I know I could reach out to while I've been here, right? While I've been in the Philippines. And
absolutely.
I have a lot of time and respect for Epi. And I've known him from when he was a site director to now being, a country head. He's just, and his business journey, his career path is just one of inspiration, to be fair.
That's amazing.
Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Phil T, he's a guy that I met probably about 7-8 years ago, but he's just one of the most coolest people, and he doesn't even know he's cool, which makes him even more cool, right? So yeah, I think if I look at the current setup, obviously I've spoke about Phil Foster from LBM days. He had a huge impact on me. John Clark, LBM, and then if I start to think about like Virgin, damn, I've forgotten his surname. He's going to hate me for it. But there was a guy called Ian. Why can't I remember his surname? Damn, that's so bad of me.
As soon as you jump off, it's going to pop.
As soon as I jump off, it'll come. Hang on, can I just check my Instagram and I'll get his surname. That's Ian. What?
That's fine.
Ian. Oh, damn. It's gonna do my head in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It does. It's not even coming up on my Instagram. How bad is that? When I put Ian in. So there's Ian from Virgin. He had a big impact on me. Ian Nicklin, who I used as we used to do kind of coaching. He used to mentor me a little bit. He's a great guy. But if I move to the current setup, there's 2 or 3 people that have had a huge impact on me in terms of kind of, Ian Williams, just a stand-up guy. He has this rare ability to be able to calm any situation, right? Because you know what it's like in the BPO world, there's fires going out everywhere, right?
Everywhere, all the time.
Everywhere, all the time, every day, all different departments. And it's sometimes difficult to control your emotion over that, but Ian does that extremely well. And then Jim Chang, John Lamont, same. Just to that leadership team there is probably the best that I've worked with. But I won't name names from the PH guys because there's like 14, 15 of them, and they all know who they are. But
it's all good. We can tag them. We can tag them.
But the guys from a PH standpoint have pulled me through some dark times. So
awesome.
And I'm super lucky and I'm super blessed. And Ricky, I'd include you in that as well. I know we don't talk often, but whenever we do, we always have a really good, engaging conversation.
I agree.
And you're one of the few people from a sales standpoint that if I haven't got anything going right now, at least you'll say, don't worry about it, but bear it in mind, and rather than kind of berate me every day for, hey, how are things going? So I respect that. I respect that. So
yeah. I mean, listen, I take my relationships, very seriously, as you know. Um, a lot of times I'm checking in genuinely because I feel that it's important to do that, because sometimes in my mind, what if no one else is checking on, you know,
Yeah.
Paul or Kathy or Jordan or anyone else, right? So maybe that person needs just that, you know, hey, how you doing? Hey, thinking
Yeah.
about you. I hope all is well. Things like that, right? It's just kind of being human, even in the center of being a salesperson, right? A
Yeah.
salesperson is what I do,
Yeah.
but relationships, that's what I love. So
So just not to go into too much detail, but I don't know the best way to phrase this without upsetting people. Recently, there's potential changes coming in kind of my role, right? So I've started to look to expand my network, I think, for want of a better phrase. But do you know what has amazed me is the kindness of strangers, right? People who you don't really know, or people that you haven't spoken to for years. You drop them a LinkedIn message. And again, I'm not promoting LinkedIn. You could drop them a message or anything, but these guys go, yeah, of course we'll help you, right? I just think that there is
that's
just
everything.
beautiful. It's beautiful, right?
It
So,
is. It
and
is.
I've been guilty of it. I've been people who can yeah, of course I'll do what I can, and then I've got to go and handle this, and then forget about it. Right?
Yeah.
Being on the other side of the fence, you
Mhm.
understand how important it is to help people. So yeah,
That's the part right there. That is it
yeah,
right there, right? I think your past affects how you operate in your reality, and
yeah,
how you operate in other people's reality.
yeah.
And I think that's the big thing here. Listen, Paul, I appreciate you for jumping on with me. I think this
I've
has been
loved
a
it.
great conversation. I mean, we've kind of talked about a little bit of everything, in which we always do.
Yeah,
Um, so again, I mean, I can't say thank you enough, just for, your involvement. Thank you for your influence. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And obviously we'll stay connected, and I wish you all the best, man. Thank you so much.
yeah. Thanks, Ricky. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you so much success with this podcast, mate. You've got a
And
lovely thing. Thank you.
absolutely. And thank everyone else for watching the episode. This is great. Go and look at Paul's LinkedIn
Please.
page. Go stalk him a little bit. Go like some posts. Go to YouTube, look at the back nine, and you'll be able to really kind of dive into a really amazing person here. So again, thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you, Ricky. Take care, man.
1 second.